Hello, let us introduce you to Changemakers, the board game of social change for the greater good. To begin, we would like to discuss the design process and how we came upon this idea for a game that promotes awareness of social issues and discussions. The game design process began with the decision to create a digital game or a board game. Given our experiences in creating board games, our team decided to create one instead of a digital game. We reflected on existing board games such as Life, Rise Up, and Monopoly to help our design process. From here, we discussed how we could highlight social issues and social change in a game. We thought back to Module 12, Games for Change, and our individual game selections that we experienced. We discussed the impact and awareness of games such as Third World Farmer, BBC Earth, iCivics, and Elude. This was essential in forming our ideas and deciding which social issues our game would emphasize. Although we all had good experiences playing such games, we couldn't decide on just one social issue to highlight because we all felt all of them were critical and essential to recognize. We then realized we could create a game that analyzes several social issues such as religion, violence, poverty, privilege, racism, sexism, sexuality, culture, bullying, and mental health. We like the idea of incorporating and creating awareness of several different social issues because of the potential impact we can make with our game. Once we determined the use of cards and social issues scenarios, we evenly divided the cards among ourselves. We made a deadline for each of us to create 2 different scenarios for 2 different social issues. This would give our game board several different cards to select from. Some challenges we faced were deciding how to structure the game objectives, and the game rules. We all had different experiences in playing and creating games, which was difficult in narrowing down the choices. We overcome these challenges by constantly thinking about the players' experiences in playing our game, which allowed us to consider the gaming format, structure, and rules. This game may consist of 2 to 5 players. The materials needed are the game board, game pieces, die, a timer, and several different card stacks. These card stacks include the What Would You Do cards, the Make a Decision cards, chance cards, and speak out cards. Players will roll the die to determine who will go first. The player who rolls the highest amount will be the first to go, and the game will play to the right of that player. The first player will roll the die, move the number of spaces, and follow the directions on the colored space. The different colored spaces and cards ask player to complete different tasks. The green spaces are What Would You Do spaces, and the corresponding cards will ask the players to read the scenario out loud. All players will select a solution and respond yes to the solution they most agree with. Players will take turns discussing why they said yes to a certain solution. The card reader will then reveal the number of points each solution was worth. Players will write down their scores. Once the discussion has been completed and points have been documented, players will resume gameplay. The purple spaces are Make a Decision spaces where the player will read the card out to the group. As a group, players will decide which solution would be best for the given scenario and discuss why. The discussion will be timed to not go over 5 minutes. Once the discussion has been completed, players will resume gameplay. Blue spaces are chance spaces, which will ask the player to follow the directions written. Some may have the player move forward or backward depending on the situation they ran across. Pink spaces are speak out spaces where the player will draw and select a discussion prompt. These prompts will ask players to share personal experiences. Although some of these topics may make the player feel uncomfortable, they should try to answer as openly and honestly as possible. Red spaces cause players to move back or lose turns. Although there are several ways players may move backwards in the game, there are 2 shortcuts to advance in the game, which brings awareness of performing services of equality. These spaces are the yellow spaces. All players will continue gameplay until everyone has reached the finish line. Players will then add up their points from What Would You Do cards. The player with the most points is the ultimate changemaker of the game. Our game is about critical social issues that impact our society every day. By playing this game, players will be able to engage in discussions surrounding several social issues we encounter on a daily basis. Through players' experiences of the game with different players each time, there are opportunities for players to remix their game experience. The discussions will be different, with each game involving different players. There is also a learning ability that is embedded through each shared discussion and experience. We believe players would collect stories from diverse perspectives and use them to create more dialogue each time the game is played. Players are learning from each other in a critical way that promotes awareness of issues that surround them. Many players may have never experienced biases or stereotypes, but they may become more aware of how others are treated. The overall objective of the game is to bring awareness to social issues and transform players' ways of thinking on the topics discussed. Through respectful, meaningful dialogue, players will be able to create solutions to these problems and share their personal experiences. Our game has the potential to change the world by creating safe, respectful dialogue among diverse groups of people. Solutions begin with meaningful conversations. We strongly believe players deserve the necessary skills to become critically aware of social issues. This game is a step towards developing a more humanized culture, a culture in which all people have a voice and feel valued as a human.
Alright, so to begin the game, players will roll the dice to determine who goes first. The player with the highest roll will go first. Who goes first? I don't know. Okay. And play will continue to the right. Okay. What does it say?
Oh no. You did nothing to stop the bully move. Back 2 spaces.
Way to go, Emma. Alright, Devin, your turn. 2. Okay, so you'll pick a what would you do card, read out the situation.
3 couples, 2 heterogeneous and 1 homosexual, booked a house through Airbnb for their upcoming vacation. When you arrive, you are told that you will not be able to stay due to the house owner's religious beliefs not agreeing with your friend's group's life choices. Option 1, you walk out and try to find somewhere else to stay. Option 2, you stand up for your friends and demand to be allowed to stay. 3, you pull the owner to the stand and offer extra money to be allowed to stay.
Okay, so players will write down their option choice on their scratch piece of paper. And players will discuss why they chose that option. So, Emma, do you want to go first?
I said option 2 because you shouldn't have to you shouldn't have to just leave or bribe someone to be able to stay somewhere you want just because of your sexuality.
Jalen?
I picked option 2 because I feel like it wouldn't be right if they just didn't let you stay because of the sexuality, and by you should stand up for your friends and what they believe in.
What would you pick, Devin?
Well, obviously option 2 because I know which one's right, but option 2 because it doesn't matter what your friends think and their sexuality, they're still your friends and they are who they are.
Can't really change that. All right, so Devin, tell them how many points they got if they picked option 2.
Both got 3 points.
All right, so I got 3 points. Another make a decision. Okay.
You notice your friend hasn't been eating lunch for a few days. When you ask her what's going on, she says nothing. She's starting to look thin and weak. What should you do? Option 1, tell her she looks bad. Maybe you can shock her back to normal. 2, ask her if she's feeling okay. Let her know that you are there for her if she needs anything. And bake her favorite cookies and bring them to school. Maybe if she sees them, she will want to eat.
Yeah, option 2 because she's probably not wanting to eat either because she wants to be thinner or for other reasons, and maybe if you let her know that it's noticeable and that you don't want her to go through anything bad, you could tell her that.
I think option 2 because she might be going through depression, just like the other situation, and you never want anybody to be depressed because they might take matters into their own hands.
I'd say option 2 because it might also be depression, but I think they're dealing with body issues, and which is why they're not eating. And so if you bring them a bunch of cookies, it might make them think that you're only wanting that that's it, that you're only wanting them to eat. So I think option 2 would be better, because that's like asking them about their feelings, not just, if I bring you this, you'll eat it.
Yeah, that's right. Good. All right. Okay, so gameplay will continue like this until everybody has reached the finish line. Once everybody has crossed to the finish line, students or players will tally up the points that they received from their what would you do cards. The player with the most points by the end of the game will be labeled as the ultimate change maker. So do y'all think that this would be a good game for, I guess, promoting social change and to get discussions going and kind of thinking about it? Yes. Would y'all feel comfortable playing a game like this, like in a school setting?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys, thank you. That's it.